system. We also created them using consoles. Today we will be learning all the left out topics in EC2. From past 1 week we have been discussing this EC2 Elastic Cloud Compute. So today we will be learning about security groups, instance types, what are EC2 best practices and costs. Now let us start our session, and if you have any doubts, stop me. So first, today's our first topic is security groups. So security groups acts as a virtual firewall for our instances. They allow us to control inbound and outbound traffic. I hope everyone knows what traffic means. We saw what traffic is in elastic load balancing. So security groups allow us to control inbound as well as outbound traffic. Security groups can provide an efficient way to assign access on our network. And there are two types of rules in this security groups. So let us first see that. So while launching an instance, after choosing an AMI, here is a step where you will be asked to select a security group, because we need a virtual firewall for protection. When we launch an instance, there might be risk of getting it hacked. So we have to use these security groups for preventing that. So security groups act as virtual firewalls. There are 100 rules for each security group, out of which 50 are inbound rules and 50 are outbound rules. Now we can either specify one or more security group. For here you can see that we can add any number of security groups. So it depends on our requirement. Generally, there are default security groups for each type of AMI. Let me show you that. Here we chose Linux. Then in security group, here you can see the default security group for the AMI with template Linux is SSH. So let us change our AMI. I'm choosing Windows this time. Yes. Next. Now, in security group, you can see the default of Windows is RDP. In the similar way, for each AMI template, you will be provided with default security groups. So coming to inbound and outbound rules. Out of 100 rules for a security group, 50 are for inbound and 50 are for outbound. Here, inbound rules control incoming traffic, while as outbound rules control outgoing traffic from our instance. So explain you what incoming traffic is in elastic balance. We can define incoming traffic as a number of requests we are receiving. Outbound as number of responses we are sending from our instance. So these are defined in security groups. So let me show. I showed you the default security groups. Now I told you that there are two different types of rules, inbound and outbound. By default, all security groups allow outbound rules. So now there are two ways to create a security group. Let us go to EC2 dashboard. Here, this is EC2 dashboard. First, when we decide to launch an instance, we can create our security group in two ways. The first one is normal way. Get to launch your instance. Here in first step, you will be asked for AMI And in the sixth step, as you can see here, after choosing your AMI, in the sixth step, this is security group. So this is a way of creating your security group for instance. And the second way is EC2 dashboard. Here in the resources provided by EC2, you can see security group. Get into it. Now here by selecting create security group, you can create one security group. Let us now see what are different options, what are different configurations we are required to select while creating a security group. So first, here we will be giving a name, anything we want. So description, this is VPC, and here are the rules. Now I told you that outbound rules are predefined for our security group. So here you can see these outbound rules are already predefined, and what we have to do is add inbound rules. So after configuring according to your requirements, you can just create a security group which will be displayed here, and you, while launching an instance, you can choose this security group for your instance. So this was all about security group. I hope I'm clear. So anyone of you have doubts about security groups? So yeah, there are two ways to create a security group. One is getting into resources provided by EC2 and creating security group, or the second one is to choose the default one provided while launching an instance. We will be asked to create a security group in the sixth step after selecting our AMI, and every AMI has default security groups, like Linux have SSH, Windows have RDP. And there are 100 rules in every security group, out of which 50 are inbound rules and 50 are outbound rules. The inbound rules define the incoming traffic, that is incoming request to our server, and the outbound rules define outgoing traffic, that is our responses from the server. And outbound rules are predefined, and we have to define inbound rules for every security group. So that is all about a security group. Now we will be moving to our second topic, that is instance types. I just gave you a brief about instance types yesterday. Today we'll be discussing deeply about that. So I told you that there are two different ways to create instance type. Similarly, there are two different ways to create a security group. Similarly, there are two different ways to create an instance type. So let us see the first one here. While you launch an instance, after choosing your AMI, in the second step, you are asked to choose an instance type. These instance types are based on different combinations. I'll tell you what those are. These instance types depends on CPU, memory size, storage, and networking capacity. All these together define an instance type. You can create an instance type on your own, or you can choose the existing one. Generally, coming to types, there are 6 different types in instances. No, these are not types. These are types. Let me tell you what those 6 are. 1, general purpose. 2, compute optimized. 3, memory optimized. 4, GPU based. 5, storage optimized. And the sixth one is EBS optimized, where EBS is our volume. I hope everyone is clear. There are 6 types of instances. general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, GPU optimized, storage optimized, EBS optimized. And we can choose these type of instances on based on our requirement. So now, while launching an instance, in the second step, we generally choose these general purpose instance types because these are predefined and we don't require to configure it. So let us see what are different types of general purpose instances. So as you can see here, there are different types of general purpose instances. They are nano, micro, large, small, medium, extra large, and double extra large. And here you can see these are generally based on memory. You can based on your requirement, if you want the smallest like 0.5 GB for your server, you can choose a general purpose of nano type. If you want 4 GB for your instance, then you can choose general purpose of small type. In the similar way, here, if you want to change the type of instance, like out of general, EBS optimized, compute optimized, you can change here. These, while clicking general purpose, you'll be shown general. If you select compute optimized, these are different types of compute optimized. Compute optimized start from large and go to 4 extra, 12 extra large. Next, you can select GPU optimized. You can select EBS optimized. Here you can see different types of it. Memory optimized. So, everyone clear? These are different types of instances, and as I told you, we generally choose instance type. So I told you there are two ways to create our instance types. This is one type, and the second one is in EC2 dashboard. You will be having this option of instance types. Just click it. And here you can create any type of instance you want by configuring. Now, this was all about instance types. Let me brief you again. There are different types of instances. We choose instance based on our configuration. Instance type is a combination of a CPU, memory size, storage, and networking capacity. There are 6 types, and they are general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, GPU optimized, storage optimized, and EBS optimized. You can create an instance type in 2 different ways. One is while launching an instance, you'll be asked in the second step to choose one. Let me show you that. Here you'll be asked. Here you can either select a general purpose or out of 6 you can select anything you want. And the second way is in EC2 dashboard, you'll be having an option of instance types. You can get into that and you can choose your instance type. So this was all about instance types. You can ask me doubts. So I think everyone are clear with this. Now we have completed our second topic. Let's move to third topic. That is, what are best practices for EC2 and costs of EC2. Now, to maintain our server in an efficient way, we need to practice some rules that I'll be showing now. Generally, there are 4 major parts that we must ensure to implement in EC2 for controlling a server in a best way. Those 4 are: 1. Security, 2. Storage, 3. Resource management, and the 4th one is backup and recovery. Every one of us make sure that our instances are efficient. For that, we look into elastic load balancing, we create security groups. Everything we do is just for one thing, to maintain our server properly. So as to maintain EC2 in a best way, we have to follow these four things: security, storage, resource management, and backup and recovery. Now, coming to security, in security, we have to implement the least permissive rules for our security groups. That means out of 50, I told you that there are 100 rules in each security group. We have to define inbound rules and outbound rules will be predefined. In inbound rules, we must ensure that we provide the ultimate security using less number of rules. So this is what security means. We have to implement the least permissive rules for our security groups. And the second one is storage. In storage, we have to ensure the volume of our data is stored so that we can use it again. We must ensure that our EBS volume have a snapshot. Can anyone tell what snapshot is? So here, while launching an instance, in the fourth step, we will be asked to choose a storage, right? We must ensure that there is a snapshot for every storage so that we prevent data loss. We must ensure that there is a backup. So we have to ensure the volume of our data is stored so that we can use it again. So if we have a snapshot, let us assume that we created an instance and after completing the usage, we got it terminated. We have a snapshot, right? Using this snapshot, we can create an other instance in other availability zone. So let me give a scenario of this. Let us assume ours is a company in India. So we started here. We established a server and we show all our customers' data. We store it in a EBS volume, and we must ensure that this EBS volume have a snapshot. Now, let us think our uh, our business here got affected and we moved to US. Now, we using this snapshot, we can be establishing a server in US and we can access all the data of our customers that are in India. So this is how we maintain a best practice to EC2. Next is resource management. In resource management, we should view our limits for EC2 and configure it accordingly. So here in configuring instance, if we require just a one instance, we keep one. If we require two, then we can keep two. So AWS allows us to create as many instances as we want based on our configuration. So we should know what should be the limit of our resources. This helps us to maintain our instances in an efficient way. And the last one is backup and recovery. In backup and recovery, this is same as snapshot. We should regularly backup so as to prevent data loss in case of instance termination. So while creating an instance, we choose a snapshot, right? We should ensure that every day we have to back up our data. Let me give you an example. So you are using a mobile phone in which we'll be backupping our data every day to our Google accounts. So let us think there is no Google account for us and we are not backupping our data. So what if we lost our phone? Then our data will be lost and we have to restart completely again. So if we backup data regularly, then you can directly give your account details to Gmail in the new phone. Then you can access all your data from your previous phone. So for this backup and recovery, we should ensure that we regularly back up so as to prevent data loss. So this was all about the best practices for EC2. Anyone have doubts? So yeah, let me brief you again. There are four major parts to practice a EC2 in a best way, that is to maintain our instance in a best way. The first one is security. In security, you have to implement least permissive rules. The second one is storage. In storage, you have to ensure that your snapshots are stored. The third one is resource management. In this, you have to know your limits and configure it accordingly. The fourth one is backup and recovery. You have to ensure that you back up your data regularly. So that was all about maintaining a EC2 instance in a best way. Now, I hope I'm clear. Does anyone of you have doubts? No. Now, let us move to costs. Coming to cost, in EC2, we are generally charged per hour. While giving you introduction to AWS, I told you we are charged per hour. That's why many people choose AWS for their cloud service. Now, in EC2, we are generally charged per hour, and price per hour depends on instance size and operating system. Now, there are different resources provided by these EC2. Let us look how pricing works for each resource. Now, for a EC2 instance, we are generally charged per hour. That means let us suppose that let us assume that we have used our instance for 2 hours. So we'll be charged for 2 hours, and this charge will be depending on our instance type, that is instance size we choose, and AMI we choose, that is a operating system. So if we choose here, if we choose a Linux system, the cost will be different for Linux. If we choose a Windows, it will be different. If we choose Ubuntu, it will be different. Similarly, for each instance type too, if we choose a nano one, our cost will be the least per hour, and if we choose a double extra large, it will be maximum. Now, coming to another resource, volumes. Here for volumes, we generally use EBS volumes. For these EBS volumes, the cost will be charged per month. This based on the size of EBS. Here in volume, we have to select how much GB we want to use. So let me show you that. While launching an instance, you'll be asked for storage, right? Yeah. Here in storage, this is our EBS volume, and this is our size of a volume. We chose 8 GB, right? For this 8 GB, we will be charged per month. So this was how EBS volumes get charged. They'll be charged per month. We are also charged for data transfers. Suppose we want to transfer our data from one server to another server, then we'll be charged for amount of data we got transferred. And the second one is load balancers. We create a load balancers for distributing the incoming traffic to different servers. For creating this and maintaining this, we have to pay them. For elastic load balancing, we are charged per hour. And I told you there are 3 different types of load balancers: classic load balancer, application load balancer, network load balancer. I also explained what these load balancers are. So our charge will be depending on type of load balancer we choose. If we chose the classic, then it will be least. And if we chose network, that ensures us high performance, then similarly it will be high for network load balancer. So for elastic load balancer, we are charged per hour. Now, elastic IPs. So we generally choose network load balancers. Apart from playing, if so we also choose network load balancing and using network load balancer, we created elastic IPs. Can anyone define elastic IP? Yeah, elastic IP is a permanent IP address that we provide to our instance. So yes, if we choose elastic IPs, we have to pay for the we have to pay for R for elastic IPs. So in similar way as we pay for network load balancing, if we choose a network load balancer, then our cost, and we also choose elastic IPs, then our cost will be combination of using a network load balancer and elastic IPs per hour. So this was all about cost. Let me brief you again. In EC2, we generally pay for R, and for each resource, this cost is different. Coming to instances, we pay for R, and this price per R depends on instance size and operating system. Coming to volumes, we pay per month. This depends on the size of our volume, and we have to pay for data transfers. That is, if we transfer our data from one instance to other, and we also have to pay while using load balancer, and this load balance price depends on type of load balancer, that is classic or application or network, and we have to pay per hour, and we also have to pay extra if we choose elastic IP. So this was all about cost. Now today we discussed four things: security groups, instance types, the best practices for EC2, and how we are charged, that is costs. So this was today's session, and I hope everyone is clear with this. You can ask me doubts now. So yeah, this is our final class of EC2, Elastic Cloud Compute. In this week, we saw the basic things required to maintain EC2 server. We saw overview of Amazon Web Services. We saw what are different services provided by AWS. We saw what compute is and what EC2 is. In EC2, we learned different topics like AMIs, instance types, security groups, elastic load balancing, and best practices for EC2 and costs of EC2. We also saw how to launch an instance. We also saw how to create AMIs, how to create instance types, how to create security groups, and we also saw what elastic IPs are. We saw what regions and what availability zones are. And apart from this, we launched and connected to Linux and Windows Server respectively. I hope every one of you created your console accounts and practiced on what I told you yesterday. So here we end EC2. Next week we will be discussing VPC, that is Virtual Private Cloud. So now that was all about EC2, and EC2 is Elastic Cloud Compute. Well, as compute is a service that satisfied infrastructure as a service model. And yeah, we also saw what cloud computing is and what are the basic concepts like deployment models and service models. So that was all about EC2, and I hope everyone are clear with this. Now, if you have any doubts regarding EC2 or AWS or cloud computing, you can ask me. Everyone clear, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So yes. Yeah. All the recordings will be shared to you. Please ensure you refer them, and if you have any doubts, you can ask me, you can text me. I'll be available. So yes, that's all for today. That's all for this week. We'll meet on Monday. Thank you.